7+ years of experience. Currently, I'm working for the Java development. So the technology which I use, like Java with the Spring Boot Microservices, a Spring Cloud component as a backend, some of the exposures in Angular in front end. Also, I have a good experience in AWS cloud services. So most of the services I used in cloud for the development of Java applications. And coming for the database, I have also used like SQL and Mongo on SQL DB, and also used some of the tools which is used for the development of and monitor the applications like Apache Maven, Jenkins, Jira, GitHub, ELK, Splunk and all. So these all are the technology stack which I have in experience. Coming for the domain, I have also good experience in the banking, telecom, e-commerce and health insurance project. Currently, I'm working based on the health insurance project. So there I am doing customization as well as implementation based on the client requirement for the microservice development. So here we are following agile. Based on the agile, whatever the sprint task will be defined, we need to work on the particular Jira which is assigned for the particular sprint. So my role and responsibility here, like on daily basis, we need to develop the API which will communicate it with one application to other, or maybe one microservice to another microservices. For that API development we are doing based on this. Apart from this, some of the cases will have a messaging queue which need to be asynchronous communications to communicate from the multiple API or microservices. So that we have used Kafka and all. And while we are developing any applications, then we have a multiples options to deploy it in the different environments. So once it will go for the production environment, then we need to take in care all those changes, like whatever the changes or development we have completed, that will be we need to verify the changes on production. So we all will be available on call. And also while deployment, then we have to check all the configurations, logs, input output parameters, what are the validation security we implemented, that we need to check, and we did deploy that. So if anything will be there in the productions and all, maybe that will not happen rarely, but then we will do the some hotfix deployments and all immediately, because we have developed the applications, we know about those whole applications business logic where we need to modify the changes and all. So that's why we will be there on call. So application is nothing but it's a portal where we need to manage the insurance. So any of the customers will come in the portal, take insurance. Once you will take the insurance, then we'll have a multiple inbuilt process which will be happen like that. Inbuilt process will happen so that users has taken the insurance, then it will go for the particular slot store, and then we will check the payment, and then we will send the notifications, we will give some redemptions of the amount, so that customer will get some promo code and all like that. So multiple things will be there through that we will do. So this is
Fine.
the applications.
Yes. I got it. So, what are the frameworks? How much is your total experience?
Total 7.3 years approx right now.
Okay. Out of 7.3, how much is your experience on Java?
Same.
Okay. Which frameworks you are very well aware in Java? Spring Boot, Hibernate, Angular.
Mostly Java, Spring Boot microservices I used. So a Spring framework I used.
Okay. Fine. So, where do you want me to ask more questions? Java or Spring Boot or Hibernate?
Mostly you can ask anywhere, that's fine for me, but Java, Spring Boot microservices is fine.
Okay, I will go with Spring Boot then.
Mhm.
What are annotations?
Uh, what are annotations I used, right? Hello?
Correct.
Yeah, so
Yes,
mostly in a
correct.
Spring framework, we have a multiple annotations are there, depends on the layer where you are writing the code. Like if you have a DTO classes or DEO classes, there will have like all the entity. So we'll have validations at the rate value, and at the rate tables, at the rate like setter getters and all, at the rate equals methods and all. So like these all are the notations we use for the DTO classes. If you have a controller classes, we'll have a at the rate controller, rest controller, or request mapping, annotations, so that we can map the our request from UI to our controller page, so that controller will send the request to the service layer. If you have a service layer, we'll have a component and service at the rate service annotations. If you have a repository layer, then we'll have a at the rate repository annotations. Inside that, we have a multiple others database related annotations we can use, like at the rate transactions and others, in Hibernate. If you'll go for that, like we have a many to one to many and all. And also we'll have a, like in a Spring Boot application, have a at the rate Spring Boot application annotations, which will have a internally three annotations will be configured at the rate configuration, enable auto configurations, component scans and all. So depends on the requirement. We have a multiple type of annotations. If you have a handler of exception, then we have exception handler. And then security, we have a at the rate security, and uh, others are there, so that we can use. So annotation is nothing but it's a way of like define the particular business. Like suppose if you have instead of calling the repetition type of code, we need to create a annotations as an interface, so that we can add this annotations in any type of configurations or all, so that classes will be know, like this is the bean classes or somewhere. So we need to check the configuration, so that configurations from where it will be taken, so that you have to mention, like if the application.yaml file is there, so enable auto configurations will take all those data from the applications.yaml file, and based on that they will process the things. So this type of annotations are used.
Okay, fine. Uh, what are the annotations we use to handle HTTP requests?
HTTP request, yeah. HTTP request is mostly is the multiple annotations are there, at the rate get, at the rate post, at the rate put, at the rate delete, and head is there. These all are there. Depends on the requirement. Will be there.
Okay, fine. Mm, what is the difference between request mapping annotation and REST controller annotation?
Request mapping and uh, REST
Yes.
controller, yeah.
Uh,
So REST
yes.
controller will be annotated on the class level, so that if you have annotated controller at the REST controller on class level, so that will know, like will have a web service call. That web service call will have a multiple method. And request mapping is method level. Inside the method, we need to mention like what type of method we need to use. Either we have a get method, so that will fetch the details from the database, or if you have a put method, we will update the details. And if you have a delete method, then we will delete these things.
Okay. Explain me about the dependency injection.
Yeah, dependency injections is a way of a Spring framework. While if you want to like if you want to add any database connections, or any business logic which will perform database operations, or maybe some others requirement for the messaging and all. So based on that, we need a dependency. That dependency which I have a pom.xml will have a, so there will have a spring dot starter parent. Through that, we need to add the dependency, so that dependency inject as per the dependency, the drivers, the data drivers will call. And once that will be called, then all the beans will be created based on that. And if you want to communicate with the database, then you have to configure the database, and then create a object for that instance, and you can call for the YAML file. So that dependency injections will come in these pictures, and they will inject automatically as per the requirement. Yeah, hello.
Okay, fine. So, what is the default port number of Spring Boot application?
Default port number of, yeah, 8080 by default will be there port number. If you want, you can customize also. We have a server dot port will be there. So in a spring.yaml file, sorry, application.yaml file, there we have a server dot port. There you can customize, but default port 8080.
Okay, fine. What is the difference between jar file, war file, and ER file?
Just a minute, just a minute. Someone came in my room.
Okay, fine. So, the, so
Yeah.
what
So
is the command we use
yeah,
to create to execute a jar file from the command prompt?
yeah, we can create a jar file, war file, or ER file. Jar file is a Java archive application, so that if you have created any jar file, so all the Java classes and respective libraries will be there. War file is a web archive file where Java and all the web applications, suppose if you have a JSP or any UI pages are there, so that web applications which will be combination of web file and Java. And EAR file is a enterprise archive file where all the jar, war file and respective library will be there. You want to, if you want to run, so that directly you can run this hyphen java hyphen cvf, or and then mention the jar name and where the jar file path is there, that you can execute through the cmd command line. Are you able to hear me? Hello? Hello?
Okay, fine. So, what is the difference between path, class path, and class path resource keywords?
Yeah, path, class path, and
Class path resource.
okay, yeah. Path is used for like we'll have a where uh, suppose if you have a Java, so that Java has been installed, so that where is installed in your machine, so that path you have to define, that bin path or execute.exe file will be defined. That path you have to declare. That is called a path. Class path where like all the classes like .java file which will be generated .class file. So all the .classes file which is generated, that path if you have mentioned, that is called the class path, where all the, instead of Java path, will have all the locations class file details will be there in that location. And others you told resource like class resource, right? Class resource, right? Hello? 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 Are you able to hear me? Hello? Hello?
Okay.
Mhm.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Fine. What does the status code 404 represents?
Status code is this depends on the different requirement. If you have a 200 status code, means like a application have a success status. If you have a 201 is a created. If we have a 400 exception, then we'll have a internal exceptions like applications level. If you have a 500, mean we'll have a server level exception, so that server will have a and if you have a 401 something, then means like something in your application has conflict and all, so that you can resolve the conflict.
Okay, fine. Uh, what are the annotations that we use in case of dependency injection?
Which type of dependency?
General dependency injection. What are the annotations we use?
General annotations which we required. Mostly we'll have a controller, service, repository, table, entity. So these all are the common annotations which we used generally. Hello, 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 Kanike.
Okay. Yes, yes, yes. Fine. Explain me about JPA, Java Persistent API.
Java Persistent API. Yeah, JPA is used for this. JPA is a specification which is used for the connect the database through business logic. So we'll have a multiple. Is a specification, and Hibernate is a like a ORM. So based on the ORM, JPA will work. If you want, you can create a repository there. You can implement the JPA interface. So JPA will have a multiple inbuilt method where we'll have a save all, permit, delete, find one, find by ID, find by salary department. So that based on this particular method, we can directly, instead of directly calling the query and all, directly we can use this method, and we can call the database which will be communicated. So these things we can use in JPA. It's a good specifications instead of Hibernate we are using.
Amar, please wait. I think he's in hold. One second.
Yeah, sure.
Uh, okay, fine. Uh, Hello, Amarjit.
Yeah, yes.
Sorry. Um, what are the steps that we need to follow to integrate uh, Hibernate into Spring Boot application?
Yeah, if you want to integrate Hibernate, then we have a multiple step which need to be followed. First of all, you need to add the dependency in pom.xml for the Hibernate related, and second you have to create the DTU classes where we can mention the table detail and all. And after that, whatever the database you want to use, that configurations you have to add this in application.yaml file and create a configuration class. There you can add connect with the connections, and in Hibernate we have a cfg config.yaml file and config.cfg file that need to be created, so that there we can map the all the our database DDL. So that DDL command, through that we have a dialect. Based on the dialect, suppose if you used SQL or Mongo or any other database, so according to the dialect we need to define that connections based on the hibernate.cfg xml and configurations file. And after that, it will create a repository class. That repository class will add this Hibernate configurations Java file, and we can communicate with the database. So these type of 4 5 steps which need to be followed while we are using Hibernate connector.
Okay. Okay, fine. Yeah, that's it from our side. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. We are done with the interview. HR will get back to its status and feedback.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.